Beth conspired, my Aunt Beth, Margaret's daughter, suggested that I write and present the eulogy several days ago. Yes, this is in fact her fault. I came to a startling realization about Grandma Margaret, Margaret Jezik, formerly Margaret Allaire, great-grandmother, grandmother, wife, mother, and daughter. She was, in fact, a hipster. Many of you in this room probably know what I'm talking about when I use this term, but for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, a hipster is someone who defines cool for the rest of us, someone who is ahead of the times, a person in the room who creates the lifestyle for the next generation, the person who swims against the mainstream. And that very much was my Grandma Margaret. The millennial generation and hipsters have adopted many of the ideas that Grandma implemented in her lifetime. This was how I knew her, not as a mother of 6, but as a single woman living life to the fullest. She appreciated life experiences over ownership and things. She traveled instead of purchasing a home, and traveled internationally up until 15 years ago. She loved mathematics and was a mathematician in a time when women were teachers and nurses. She was a risk taker. She celebrated her friendships. She drank hard alcohol and played cards, and in fact, could count cards like nobody's business. She played basketball before Title IX was passed. Her house and car didn't matter. They were functional, not impressive. She dyed her hair blonde for years and was known to love to wear her good plastic jewelry. She went to college. She read every book in her local library when she was a child and was notoriously left-handed. I feel like this is remarkable for any woman, let alone someone from her generation. However, no one can be pigeonholed by a particular movement. In many ways, Grandma Margaret was a traditional woman who lived through 1950s America. This was not the grandma that I knew, but many of her did know her this way. She got married to Grandpa Jezik. She had 6 children. She lived in the Chicago suburbs. She was part of a bowling league. She made needlepoint coasters for the coffee table and baked a fine poppy seed bread. She attended church every day and was deeply religious. She wrote long letters to friends and recorded much of our family history. She was never comfortable with technology and loved Jeopardy, Matlock, and Murder, She Wrote. She taught us how to play cards, do crossword puzzles, and was always up for a trip to Mr. Freeze for hot dogs, root beer floats, and especially hot fudge sundaes. She loved to read biographies, always read the paper, and often submitted a letter or two to the editor. I can remember when I was little and I would get sick at school, Grandma would pick me up and take me to her place and feed me white bread and butter, something that I could never get at home. She would always save the last scoop of chocolate chip cookie dough for my brother Greg, Margaret's grandson, to eat when he got home from school. And when my cousin Michelle, Margaret's granddaughter, stayed overnight at her house and was homesick, Grandma let her have ice cream for breakfast. These are the little things that grandmas do and that grandkids remember. It isn't until we get older that we realize that they had entire lives before we were born, and that, as in Grandma Margaret's case, were remarkable and fulfilling. Another thing that becomes clear is that she was opinionated, always spoke her mind, and was an independent woman through it all. In the end, she had 6 children, 8 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren. Not too shabby for one lifetime. I would like to include things by leaving it up to the words of one of the world's greatest hipsters, Frank Sinatra. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it's clear. I'll say my case, of which I'm certain. I lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway. And more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and I saw it through without exception. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and I did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed, I've cried. I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing. The records show I took the blows and did it my way. Yes, it was my way. We'll miss you, Grandma Margaret, Gigi M., Mom, Margaret Jezik, Margaret Allaire. Without a doubt, you did it your way, and we wouldn't have wanted it any other way. We love you.